There is something nobody tells you about walking away from a good man. The moment she realizes what she had, everything about her changes, and by the time she figures it out, you will already be somewhere she cannot reach you anymore. Pay close attention to what I am about to share with you today, because this is the part they never show you. There is a specific moment, quiet and unhurried, that arrives in the life of a woman who walked away from something genuinely good. She does not announce it. She does not call you. She does not send a long message at midnight, explaining everything she finally understands. She simply sits with it, alone, in the kind of silence that only arrives when a person has run out of distractions, and the truth has nowhere left to hide. And in that silence, something shifts inside her that cannot be undone. If you have ever wondered what really happens inside a woman when she realizes the man she left was the one she should have stayed for, the answer is more layered, more painful, and more revealing about human nature than most people ever discuss honestly. The first thing you need to understand is that this realization does not arrive on a schedule. Some women feel it within weeks. Others carry it for years before it fully crystallizes into something they can no longer avoid looking at directly. Research in relationship psychology consistently shows that the process of recognizing the value of what was lost often requires contrast. The experience of dating someone new, encountering something difficult, or simply sitting in the quiet of an ordinary day and noticing that the ease and the warmth and the specific quality of being genuinely cared for are no longer present. The absence becomes the teacher, and for some women, it is the most painful classroom they ever sat in. What she feels first is not regret in the clean and simple sense of the word. It is something heavier and more complicated. It is the specific discomfort of reviewing a decision she made with incomplete information and realizing that if she had known then what she knows now, she would have chosen differently. Psychologists describe regret as involving two core components: the awareness that a different outcome was possible and the recognition that her own choices contributed to the outcome that occurred instead. When those two things collide in a woman who walked away from a good man, the emotional weight of it is significant and real and impossible to reason away no matter how many times she tries. The second thing that happens is subtler, but equally important. She begins to compare, not in the way people compare casually, but in the specific and involuntary way the mind compares things when it is trying to locate something it has misplaced. She finds herself in conversations with the man she chose after you, and registering the small and cumulative ways that the experience is different, not just different in the obvious sense, but different in the texture of daily life, in the quality of feeling heard, in the specific and irreplaceable experience of being with someone who was genuinely steady. The comparison arrives without invitation and refuses to leave politely. She starts reaching out, not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it is a view on your social media at an unusual hour. Sometimes it is a message that begins with something casual and ends with something that sounds like a door being reopened. Sometimes it is a mutual friend mentioning that she asked about you in a way that carried more weight than the words themselves suggested. Research into post-breakup behavior consistently identifies increased communication attempts as one of the most reliable behavioral indicators that a woman has arrived at the realization of loss. She may not say it directly, but the reaching out is the saying of it in the only language that feels safe enough to use before she is certain of the reception. Her social behavior changes in ways that people around her begin to notice even before she fully acknowledges what is driving the change. She becomes less present in the performance of having moved on, the social media activity that communicated the narrative of a woman thriving quietly loses its urgency. She stops broadcasting the version of herself that was designed to communicate that the decision she made was the right one. And in that stopping, something honest emerges. The people who know her well recognize it as the specific quality of a woman who has stopped trying to convince herself and is sitting in the truth of what she actually feels instead. She thinks about the specific moments more than she thinks about the relationship as a whole. This is one of the most important things to understand about how this realization actually works in the daily life of a woman going through it. It is not the broad strokes of the relationship that haunt her. It is the Tuesday mornings, the specific way you listened when she talked about something that mattered to her, the particular and unremarkable kindness of someone who showed up consistently without requiring recognition for the showing up. Relationship psychology identifies this kind of specific memory as some of the most emotionally potent material in the human experience of loss, precisely because ordinary moments are what genuine connection is actually built from, and ordinary moments are exactly what becomes impossible to find or recreate with someone new. The anger that sometimes accompanies this realization is one of its most misunderstood dimensions. A woman in the middle of recognizing that she lost something genuinely good does not always arrive at immediate acceptance. Sometimes she arrives at a temporary anger first, an emotion that is less about you than it is about herself, and the specific discomfort of sitting with the decision that cannot be undone. Relationship experts note that this anger is frequently a defense mechanism, a way the emotional system protects a person from the full and immediate weight of self-blame by directing energy outward rather than inward. It does not last, but understanding it explains some of the behavior that can seem confusing from the outside when a woman is moving through this particular emotional landscape. Then comes the quieter phase, the one that arrives after the anger has burned itself out and left nothing behind, except the honest and undecorated awareness of what was and what is no longer available. This is the phase where the behavior changes become the most revealing. She becomes more thoughtful in her interactions with you, if you are still in each other's lives at all. The sharpness or the distance that characterized the period immediately following the end of the relationship softens into something more considered. She becomes more careful with her words around you, not in the calculated way of someone managing a situation, but in the genuinely careful way of someone who understands that the relationship between what is said and what is lost is something she can no longer afford to be careless about. Her standards shift in ways she may not entirely expect. One of the less discussed outcomes of a woman arriving at the full realization of what she had is the recalibration that follows. She begins to understand with a precision that only experience can produce what she was actually looking for in a relationship and what she had already found and left behind. Research into long-term relationship patterns consistently shows that individuals who have experienced genuine and stable partnership and then lost it become significantly more discerning in subsequent relationships. She is no longer willing to settle for the performance of availability without the reality of genuine presence. She has experienced the difference, and the difference is something she cannot unfeel. Her communication with the people closest to her changes in tone. She begins to talk about the past relationship differently. The framing shifts from the narrative she used to tell, which was organized around justifying the decision she made, to something more honest and more nuanced. She begins to acknowledge the things she did not fully appreciate at the time. She begins to speak about qualities she once took for granted in a way that communicates genuine recognition of their rarity. The friends who were present during the relationship and after it often describe the shift as one of the most unmistakable signs that a woman has moved through the denial phase and arrived at a more honest reckoning with what actually happened and what it actually cost her. She starts investing in herself differently, not in the performative way of someone trying to attract attention immediately after a breakup, but in the quieter and more deliberate way of someone who has done a genuine inventory of who she was in the relationship and who she wants to become. Psychologists identify this kind of introspective self-investment as one of the healthier outcomes of the realization process, the specific turning of the awareness of loss into the motivation for genuine personal development. She is not doing it to impress you. She is doing it because the recognition of what she had and lost has made her serious about becoming the kind of person who is capable of receiving and sustaining quality of connection in the future. If there is an opportunity for reconnection, she approaches it completely differently than she approached the relationship the first time. The entitlement or the casualness that may have characterized her behavior during the relationship is replaced by a quality of genuine effort and genuine humility that was not present before. She understands something now that she did not understand then, which is that a man who is genuinely good, genuinely steady, and genuinely present is not an infinite resource who will wait indefinitely while she figures out what she values. That understanding changes how she shows up. It makes her more present, more communicative, more willing to do the work that genuine partnership actually requires of both people inside it. There is something important that men need to understand about this entire process, and it is perhaps the most practically useful piece of information in the entire conversation, the realization that a woman arrives at when she understands she lost something genuinely valuable is almost never accelerated by a man who is waiting for it or chasing it. Research into the psychology of attraction and perceived value consistently identifies the specific quality of a man who continues living his life with genuine purpose and genuine contentment as the most reliable catalyst for a woman's recognition of what she had. Your advancement is her realization. The life you build in the absence of her presence is the clearest possible signal of the quality and the depth of what she gave up when she chose to walk away from you. The deepest truth about what happens when a woman finally realizes she lost a good man is this. It is not primarily a story about her relationship with you. It is a story about her relationship with herself. The moment of realization is the moment she stops running from the honest version of events and allows herself to see clearly what was present, what she contributed to its ending, and what the loss of it has genuinely cost her. The question that every man in this situation eventually has to answer for himself is not whether she will realize what she lost. It is what he will do with his own life while she is arriving at that realization. And the answer to that question matters far more than anything she decides to do with hers.